Okay, so as we all know, in our story and how we kind of go around doing this, I always talk about that this is kind of like a Netflix series, right? So we're in episode 2. But we are going to do a recap. So last week's session that we did was all about prospecting. It was all about understanding the client objective, working on a discovery, what the client is really looking for, what their employees are really looking for, asking the right questions, understanding some things that you might need in order to facilitate the next stages in the cycle. And so we went through all of that. We hope that you got a lot out of it, and we hope that you're kind of understanding or putting thoughts together that's going to help you ask more important questions, more poignant questions, getting to the root of what clients are really looking for, and then again being able to put in the right benefit program. So one thing to put in a benefit program, it's another to put in the right benefit program. And so by asking those questions and working with our team to ask those questions, we want to make sure that you're dialed in and getting that right information across. In order to do that, in order to facilitate the next stages, you're going to have to understand the concepts behind the request to quote and group underwriting. So before Candy starts us off, we've got some objectives in this presentation or the agenda to understand the process to request a quote for your client. And you need to understand that. We often get a lot of advisors who come in and say, my client is looking for a benefit program or looking for proposals. You maybe call us on a Monday and think that you're going to get a full proposal out by Thursday. Doesn't work like that. It's not like life insurance where you might put in a whole slew of specs and it pops out a computer system with like rates and things like that. That's not how the group market works. It's far more complicated. There's a lot of underwriting risks, a lot of information that we need. And so we want you to be able to set expectations accordingly. Just to give you an idea, a group of, let's say, 10 to 15 people only looking for traditional benefits, you probably are looking at a 2-week turnaround time from the time we send in a clean proposal to the carriers to the time you get a populated proposal back. Any groups that are larger than that, it's probably about a 3-week turnaround time for quotes to be generated, evaluated, populated, and reviewed. So we want to make sure that we're setting expectations for your client accordingly. We also need you to understand the specific information which is required by underwriters. So we're going to go through that. And then, of course, understand more of the best practices in gathering information for clients and prospects. And that's going to include some tips and tricks as well to be able to get some of that information to the table. So with that, Candy's going to take this slide and take it from here, Candy.
Thank you, Marnie. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm very happy to be here this morning, spending some time with Marnie and everyone else. So when it comes to the request to quote, what can you expect from IDC Workplace Solutions, your MGA, right? So there are 5 steps that come into play when it comes to the request to quote process. First, you, the advisor, will contact us, your MGA, IDC Workplace Solutions, to request a quote. Typically, we'll have an initial conversation with you. That conversation will happen with your business development executive, right? Like your local business development executive, where we're talking about your prospect, the size of the prospect, the nature of industry, the plan design, what they're looking for. So after that initial conversation, you'll then send us information that we need in order to go out and get quotes for you. So once we get the information, typically advisor will send that information to us by email, and your business development executive will review it and then follow up with you if need be. Maybe, there's a clarification that's needed. Maybe we have questions, there are missing information. We'll follow up with you. The more information you send to us, the more the more complete the information you send to us, the better. The quicker we move along through the process, and the quicker we get you to the marketing proposal. So once we've reviewed it, our new business team, we have a new business team here. The new business team will take over, and then they'll prepare a request to quote and submit it to underwriters and service providers. And you're going to see that we stayed away from the term insurance carriers, because as an MGA, IDC Workplace Solutions, we use at any given time, we're dealing with insurance carriers, we're dealing with TPAs, third-party administrators, or sometimes it's like it's a simplified plan that we're putting in place. We have our own simplified plans that are robust, that are great for small businesses, that are only exclusively available to advisors that work with us at IDC Workplace Solutions, right? So your clients, if they're working with an advisor that's not within our network, they won't have access to these plans. So, and then the fourth step is where the MGA receives the information from insurance carriers and underwriters and service providers. We get the quotes back, and then our business team will populate a document that we call a market survey or marketing proposal, is where we're going to show you the carriers that we approached, the underwriters we approached. Maybe we approached 4 carriers, right? So we'll have a summary for you, showing you how many underwriters we approached, the quotes they provided. One thing that I really want to emphasize here, at IDC Workplace Solutions, we do not sell benefits based on low rates, on the lowest rates on the spreadsheet. It's really about the client's needs, the client's objectives, and matching those objectives, matching our needs analysis to our findings in the market when we went to the market and get the quote. So let me give you an example. Maybe in your needs analysis, the clients communicated to you that their renewals have been volatile. They're getting hit with increase year after year. They're really wanting to stabilize cost. You came to us, you brought us what we needed. We went to market. We approached maybe 4, maybe 5 carriers. 2 of the carriers we approached offered a longer rate guarantee. Maybe they offered a 24-month rate guarantee plus 30 on non-pooled benefits, plus a 36 months on pooled benefits, plus a 2 renewal rate cap. So this is really, this quote is now providing a client with stability for the next 4 years. But guess what? This is not the most competitive carrier on the spreadsheet in terms of pricing. Maybe this specific carrier did not offer the most savings. They offered maybe a 15% savings, but they also offered the client stability over a 4-year period, versus the 3 other carriers only offered great savings. Maybe it's a 30% savings. When we're showcasing the carriers, we're going to make sure that your client sees the carrier that offered them what they were looking for, what they asked for, which is stability, cost stability over the long run. So that's just something that I wanted to mention. And the next step is the final step. Depending on the business model that you've selected, it's either we're booking a meeting, one of our business development executives is booking a meeting with you to review the marketing proposal, to review the market survey, or it's a meeting between you, us, and the client, going over the market proposal and the marketing survey. So Marnie, next slide, please.
Sorry.
Oh, next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. All right, so I'm pretty sure you sat in Marnie's meeting last week. She talked about the discovery process, needs analysis, and now we're talking about gathering information for an accurate RTQ. I know this seems like a lot of information. You're probably overwhelmed and you're wondering, why does the RTQ even matter, right? the RTQ matters for two reasons. The first reason, it's key to getting accurate and reliable group benefits quote, smoother process, fewer caveat or updates as you move through sale and implementation. What we don't want to do is we don't want to gather just a little bit of information and send it to underwriting and hope for the best, right? Underwriting will have a lot of questions for us. Are there any seasonal employees? Are there any contractors? If there are seasonal employees, most underwriters want these employees to work a minimum of 9 months in a year, right? So now underwriting is only collecting premium for 9 months versus 12 months. So that's going to be taken into consideration when they're coming up with rates, right? Take a trucking company, for example. That's an industry where underwriting, that brings up a lot of questions from an underwriting perspective. The underwriting will want to know, are these drivers only driving in Canada? Are they driving outside of Canada? Are they driving to the US? Are they employees who are T4, or are they contractors? So there's going to be a lot of questions. So the more thorough, complete your needs analysis is with your clients, the better outcome for everyone involved. The better outcome for your clients, they have a great experience, right? The better outcome for you yourself, the advisor, your credibility goes up. The better outcome for underwriting, for us, your MGA. So everyone involved, all the parties involved are going to be in a better position. Second reason why the RTQ matters, it allows your MGA and underwriters to help you present value added plan design and service options to your client. Let's say, for example, you had your needs analysis and your client expressed to you that, let's say, you've probably highlighted some important aspects to an organization, right? So maybe this is an organization that truly cares about the well-being of their employees, when it physically and mentally. So we need maybe to go out and get them a strong, robust mental health plan design, mental health plan or strategy, right? Maybe it's time for us to put like a quote for Inkblot on our marketing proposal, and we'll put that in there for you, and we'll talk more about it when we review the marketing proposal. Or let's say maybe this is a group with a lot of young people that are starting that are starting a family or that are growing their family. Therefore, we need maybe to make sure that family building benefits is embedded within the proposal, where fertility drugs and fertility treatment are included, right? So that people are able to get what they need out of the benefits plan, and they actually see value in it. Marnie, you can move on to the next slide. Well, so element of an RTQ, right? So there are 7 key pieces of information that are required in order for us to get you to get you proposal and quotes that are accurate and that reflect the needs and wants of the client. So in order for us to put together a request to quotes that's clean, complete, and accurate, we're going to need the company information, underwriting information, administration requirements. We're gonna get into the detail of each of these elements on the following slides. And then we will need the plan design, claims experience and rate history, employee data, and advisor notes. Next, Marnie. Company information. So as you're out there prospecting, talking to business owners, you're going to notice that a lot of companies will have a legal name and an operating name. Underwriting will need to know both. Why? Well, most underwriters will do a background check and a high-level company search for 2 reasons, right? First of all, underwriting needs to know that the company where underwriting exists. This is not some made-up company where a bunch of people came together and for the sole purpose of requesting for the sole purpose of getting insurance. That's any underwriter's nightmare, right? So second, underwriting will want to know the company's name, because both legal and operating name, because every single time a company or a group goes out to market and shops around, the request to quote is logged into the insurance carrier's system with the company name and everything else. So most underwriters do not want a company that shops every year. Every time they get the renewal, they're not happy. They want to go to market. They want to request a quote. They always think that, they can get cheaper rates elsewhere. So this is one of the reasons why underwriting will do a high search level on the group that we're quoting. And if they've received several quotes in the past, maybe they've received 2 or 3 requests to quote from this specific group, then they're just going to come back and say, we're not going to provide a quote to this group. They go to market every year, and this is not a client that we want. This is a client that's never going to be happy with the renewal. As soon as they get the renewal, they're going to want to market, and this is going to be a bad investment for us. The second piece of information when it comes to the company information is location and region. So we all know rates will vary province to province, right? So different provinces have different dental care provincial fee guides, and those fee guides do have a significant impact on dental rates. The same thing can also be said about healthcare rates, right? So different provinces will have different provincial healthcare coverage levels, and the provincial healthcare plans also do have a significant impact on healthcare. Take, for example, BC. BC is a pharmacare province, right? So let's say we're dealing with a non-virgin group that has benefits and they have a high-cost drug on their claims experience. If the client is in BC, we can help. So some of the cost of the high-cost drug can be offset by the provincial healthcare plan, right? As opposed to a client who's in a different province, for example, from Alberta, that doesn't have pharmacare, we might have a different strategy for the same group. And next is industry and occupations. So not just the industry, but occupations are also important, right? For instance, a heavy blue collar industry where disability risk is high, but your client has a low number of employees in actual high risk occupations. So take, for example, a mining company. Those are companies that are usually extremely difficult to get disability coverage for. But if most of the employees are office staff, they're not on the field, then we might be able to get disability coverage for them. So yes, the industry matters, but so do the occupations of the people we're trying to get covered. Years in business. That's also one that's very important. Most underwriters do not want to cover a brand new company, right? Because the risk is very high. We all know the risk of failure is very high within that 1 year. So most underwriters will require a company to be operating for a minimum of a year before they're able to offer them coverage. And they just want to make sure that the company is stable, where they're not going to offer them benefits today. 3 months down the line, they're now closing their company. In the meantime, members hit the plan with a bunch of claims, and underwriting is left with the deficit. And next, last but not least, number of employees. So the number of employees will dictate the type of product that's available to the client. nowadays, when we have a two-lifer, we can actually offer them, get them, put something in place for them, a benefits plan for them. In the market right now, I think we have two insurance carriers that will offer benefits for a two-lifer, one without medical underwriting. Two without medical underwriting and one with medical underwriting. But when we start getting into the three-lifer, that's when we have a lot more options in terms of who we can approach and the type of service providers that we can approach. I think next, I'm going to pass it off to Marnie, and Marnie is going to do the next couple slides.
Yeah, thanks so much, Candy. So great, that was amazing. Okay, so based off of our last session, because we ended our last session with talking about risk, and risk is really important. There's 4 types of risk when we talk about the group insurance space. One is anti-selective risk. So if we're doing a recap from our Netflix series, we're going to reintroduce what anti-selective risk is, what our claims risk is, from that perspective, our workforce risk, and of course our marketing risk. And those are really important. So just to give you a couple of examples of what we're talking about here, regardless if you've got a group who currently has coverage or a group that's a virgin group, it's the same topics that we're continually talking about and making sure that advisors understand. So with selective risk, a couple of things that can come up is the employer premium sharing amount. So it's standard in the industry that employers should be paying a minimum. They can pay the whole thing, but a minimum of 50% of the premium in order to avoid some of that anti-selective risk. We do know that if the employees were to pick up the whole premium, then people would only come on the plan if they needed it, versus what the insurance is really there for, which is a collective agreement or a collective policy, those who need it versus those who may need it in the future. And there is risk associated to that. As well as is the benefit plan a condition of employment? This is where a lot of employees, plan administrators kind of fall short, which is why we do a lot of sessions in some of our business models. Sorry, I keep banging that. But in some of our business models where advisors have asked us to step in to do employee sessions or to have one-on-one conversations with their plan administrators, so that we don't get employees picking and choosing if they want to come on a benefit plan or not. Typically, these plans are mandatory. Or how to devise a plan that has contract employees versus full-time employees versus seasonal employees. What are the ramifications of people not coming on a benefit plan? What are the rules around that? So that's all risk that needs to be evaluated. And that's why some of our advisors choose some of our higher business models, so that we can teach how the benefit plan should be running with best practices. The second one is claims risk. So that's a big one. We like to ask a number of questions. These questions are getting longer and longer, and especially if you're doing a proper discovery, we want to get right down deep into some of these questions so that we're not putting anybody at risk. So any employees away from work for sickness or injury, that's really important in terms of grandfathering purposes from one carrier to another. There are forms that might need to be filled out. We want to make sure that the current carrier has properly put them in place. So there's things like that. Are there any long-term disability claims in the last 3 years? There's always an opportunity where if somebody has long-term disability and there's open claims, we need to make sure that the new carrier is aware of that, and who's going to take on that person. Is it going to stay with the, oh, I'm sorry, I keep banging that. Is it going to stay with the current carrier? How are we handling these employees? That's really important. And then, of course, any high cost drugs, and how many, what's the amount, and is this even a drug that's going to be accepted by the new carrier? So these are really, really important. We can't just take on a group, evaluate it, take it out to market, and hope that we can sell it. That's why we ask a lot of questions, and we're not trying to be nitpicky about it. We're trying to ask questions to make sure your credibility stays intact and that we're not putting any employees or any company in a disservice. Okay. Then we have workforce risk. So that's, working on a group who may have a union in place. Are we even allowed to market the plan? Do they have a collective bargaining agreement? Are we able to change? Because there's rules around that, and we don't want to cause problems for bargaining agreements. Are there seasonal employees that need to be covered? They're handled differently than regular employees, and there's rules around that. So we want to make sure we know that and we're properly communicating. And then, of course, our marketing risk. How long has the client been with the current carrier? That's because a lot of insurance companies right now are not even looking at a group who has not been with an insurance carrier for more than 2 years. We've got a lot of groups that come through our pipeline where they've only been with the carrier for 1 year. Insurance companies are not taking it. And there's reasoning behind it. They get known as rate merchant shoppers. We've put, insurance carriers, as Candy said before, they log all of the groups that come through. When a marketing is done, they may decline simply because the group is continually marketed with different advisors. So there's reasonings behind it. And then what is the reason for the marketing? We're actually working with a group right now, or they're considering working with us, who happens to be with a carrier that's a really good carrier. And so it's a discussion of whether or not they should stay with the carrier that they have and just sign over an agent of record letter to this advisor, and we make changes within the plan, adding benefit or deleting benefit or restructuring the benefit plan, but just switching brokers and staying with their carrier. You don't always have to market a group in order to get the business. The provider may be doing exactly what the provider was intended to do, but maybe the broker isn't doing what they needed to do, and there's a different conversation to be had there. Okay. So the next piece is what we call administration and funding elements, and that's really important because how things are underwritten, how things are funded, is something that's changing. So you'll see a lot right now where we talk a lot about hybrid plans. That's a different type of kind of funding idea around a benefit program, where maybe we move away from traditional and maybe we put in something called hybrid, where we keep the catastrophic care intact, but maybe we pull out some of the transactional items and then offset it with a healthcare spending account. Same sort of concept behind the benefit program, but now we're funding it a little bit differently, and we're getting more flexibility under the plan. It could very well be that you're running into a group that has the demographic is such where there's a lot of couples as opposed to families. Now that takes on different meanings for different insurance carriers. So maybe we need to put in a single couple family because there's a large portion of the demographic that just doesn't have kids yet, or and they get a better rate if they stay a couple than going the family route. So there's conversations to be had there. And then just talking about the complexities in administration and cost to the underwriter. So a few things come up here. Does the group have multiple operating divisions or separate bills required? That's going to be important because that's even if, does a carrier even have the capability to offer this type of thing? That's something that we're going to have that we want to know. Has the client migrated to electronic or paperless admin, or are they still a company that is old school? Technology is not the key, and maybe we have to work with a carrier that is still doing paper enrollments because that's easier for the group. And there's nothing wrong with that. Technology is not always great. And some companies have not migrated. I happen to be a person who does not like change and does not like new fancy portals. I don't function well. But there are other companies who have fully moved into that digital format, and there are others who just like paper stuff. So we want to know that so that we're properly putting the client with a carrier that's best suited for their needs. And are any of the benefits to be self-insured? And if so, which ones? Typically, we see that when it comes to dental, and it's typically on higher plans or higher employee count, like over 100, things like that. That's not to say that that can't be done lower, but we tend to see them are on higher plans. So just the costing and funding around those types of things. And then there's something to be said about plan design. So, there's a difference between creating a plan design with a company who has an existing plan, and then, of course, a company that does not have an existing plan or is a virgin group. So when we ask for information, we are not being nitpicky. We're not being combative. We are not trying to be difficult. There are reasons behind it. So, for instance, we want a copy of their current booklet by class. We're not just going to create a plan design for a group who already has coverage. We have to have a benchmark to be able, we may ask for alternates, but we do need a benchmark for what plan design they currently have, because that's where the rates and the experience of that group has been driven by that plan design. So without it, we can't determine if it's a fair renewal or not, or if the rates match what they should be, or if the experience is over trending. Why? Because it is all driven by what that plan design looks like. So that's why we ask for it. Does the current plan design support the client's objectives? Well, that's going to be really important because if they had a specific mindset or a specific objective in place, we need to make sure we were listening to the client to make sure that we're matching it and that we're going and getting a plan that meets those specific needs. So we're going to ask for that information. And then, of course, there's alternates for consideration. So, if they're looking for cost stability, if they're looking for their rates to be more palatable, but they know that their paramedicals went out of control, but they also don't want to remove their paramedical coverage because they don't want upset clients. Well, maybe there's another way we can keep everybody happy. So is the client interested in working with you and with us on alternatives that make it more conducive, offer a different strategy, but keep the goal intact? So that's something that we're going to talk to you about or make sure that we know. And then, of course, the plan designs that are for groups that don't currently have coverage. We want to make sure that we're creating something that's based on the discovery. So things like, do you need help aligning client needs with the appropriate plan design? We can ask for any plan design, but if it's totally not what the client is asking for, then nobody did their job effectively. So we want to make sure that we're dialing back, that we're listening, that we're communicating, and that we're putting something in place that really did what the client asked for it to do. So we can help with that. You'll notice that the poll came up for our Quebec licensed advisors. So please do pay attention to that. And then we can help create one, or if the client has something in mind, we can work off that. And then, of course, how to engage your customer in understanding the benefits of a healthcare spending account. That is becoming more and more popular. And not just a healthcare spending account, but a flexible spending account, where we have our tax-free benefits versus our taxable benefits. Things like gym memberships, yoga, whatever it is, could fall into those categories, and how to illustrate that and why they're becoming more popular. So that's something that we have to take into consideration. Candy, that's you.
Yeah, thank you, Marnie. So when it comes to rate history and claims experience, this only this does not come into play when we're talking about a virgin group. Why? Well, because underwriting will use the manual rate or book rate. These are simply rates that are in the books for groups that are similar to the group that we're quoting when it comes to the size of the group, the industry of the group, and the demographics of the group. Now, when rate history and claims experience become crucial is when we're dealing with a non-virgin group, a group that has benefits. Why? Because underwriting relies heavily on claims experience to come up with rate for the non-virgin group. And you're out there prospecting, you're going to come across clients that do not want to provide you with their claims experience, for example. And they will just let you know, hey, like I need quotes, go get me quotes. Well, you need, as the advisor, knowing better, because the client they don't know what they don't know. You're going to let them know that it's very important for us to provide you with, for us to get your claims experience, your rates experience, so that we're providing you with a quote that's reliable and accurate, right? In some cases, you'll have clients that only provide you with claims experience. Well, claims experience are key. We need claims experience. We need to see, they only provide you with claims. Claims are key. We need to see claims. Underwriting need to see claims, but claims alone do not mean anything, right? We need to see claims, but we also need to see premiums. Take, for example, a group that paid $10,000 of premium for healthcare last year, for example. Now, for the same period, the insurance carrier paid $5,000, paid out $5,000 in claims. Now, the underwriting, when they're looking at that piece of information, they have a clear idea as far as the usage of the group. We see they paid $10,000 in premium, but the insurance carrier paid out $5,000, which means that they use 50% of the premium. So utilization last year for healthcare was 50%. So that's a clear, it's giving underwriting a clear picture, and they know exactly how to go about setting rates, healthcare rates for that specific group. Disability claims, I think Marnie mentioned it earlier. We need to know especially when we're quoting a non-virgin group, we need to know, is there any open disability claims? Or have there been disability claims in the past? If there is an open disability claim, we need to know what's the date of the claim, when did the claim start, is the claimant still on disability? When are they expected to return? Are they returning, right? What's the prognosis? Underwriting needs to know all of that, and they need to take that information into consideration as they're setting the rates and moving forward with the request to quote. So the more information, the more we know about the prospect, the better. Like I said before, the better the outcome for everyone involved. Why? Oh, sorry. So why do we need rate history and claims experience? That's just because, to provide guidance on exceptional claims. Maybe we're dealing with a non-virgin group with a high-cost drug. Maybe it's a cancer drug. I recently had a case where there was a member on the plan that was on a high-cost drug, a $20,000 a year drug called Skyrizi, I believe. It's used in the treatment of psoriasis. So when we're dealing with such a group with such a huge claim, it can be challenging. Sometimes we can do something, sometimes we can't. But, in most cases, we need to get all the information that we need. We need to see the claims experience, the rate, and we need to see the claims, the claims breakdown in order to determine, is there anything we can do? Can we maybe go to a carrier that can offer a substitute? Or maybe is there any way we can approach a carrier that will help this specific member that's on a high-cost drug navigate the provincial health care plan, so that some of the cost is actually some of the cost is absorbed by the provincial healthcare plan. Claims breakdown by type. That's a piece of information that that can really be helpful when preparing a request to quote to send to underwriters, right? For example, let's say last year we're looking at the claims experience and we see healthcare rates were through the roof last year. But then when we look at the breakdown, we see that most of these healthcare claims came from, let's say, for hospital. Maybe somebody in the group was in a car accident last year, and as a result, they ended up in a hospital for 3 months. Now, this person has since recovered. They're no longer they're doing well. So these hospital claims, we don't expect them to come back. So when we're preparing our request to quote, if we know that piece of information, and if you did your due diligence when talking to your clients, gathering information and asking the right questions, you bring us that piece of information, that can be huge on healthcare rates, right? Going forward, when we're approaching underwriting, we can share that information with underwriting and build the case and actually have a better outcome when in terms of healthcare rate. Next slide, Marnie. Employee data. So when it comes to the employee data, we need, names are good to have, but they're not necessary. We can definitely, move forward with the request to quote with just employee, labeling employees with numbers, employee number 1, 2, employee A, B, or sometimes we can definitely just have employees' initials, right? Gender is a must. We need gender. Why will underwriting use gender to set life rate? We know women live longer than men. So gender is going to play a huge role when setting life rate. Age, ideally, underwriting wants to see date of birth, but we can do, age, people's age is also just acceptable, but the ideal scenario here is that we have everyone's date of birth. Occupations, very important, especially when we are quoting salary-driven benefits, such as long-term disability, short-term disability, right? Because those benefits are very tied to the occupations. Enrollment status. For healthcare and dental care, we need to know who's going on the plan as single, who's going to on the plan as couple, family. Is anybody opting out of healthcare and dental care? Very important to know here. People can opt out of healthcare and benefits as long as they have spousal coverage. However, we still want them to be on the plan for the mandatory benefits. Mandatory benefits are life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, dependent life, critical illness, long-term, short-term disability. We want them on the plan for the mandatory benefits. Why? 2 reasons. First reason, God forbid they lose their spousal coverage, it's easier for them to come onto the plan. The insurance carrier already has their information. We just we get them enrolled to healthcare and dental care. Second, God forbid something happens to the member, they pass away. We want our surviving spouse to be able to claim life insurance death benefit, right? So that's it for enrollment status. Earnings are only needed when we're quoting earning-driven benefits. Unless we're quoting disability, unless we're quoting salary multiple for life insurance, one-time salary for life, 2 times, we don't need earnings. So earnings really are a must when we're quoting salary-driven benefits. Province of residence, I think I mentioned that early. Very important to know where each employee resides, because each province has different provincial healthcare level coverage. Each province will also have different provincial fee guide when it comes to dental care. Benefits class, it's not always a requirement unless the client is willing to segment the employee population. Maybe we want two classes, one for executives, one for the rest of the employees, and we want to give executives better benefits because we want to be able to retain them and to keep them in the company. Or maybe we have seasonal employees and permanent employees, and we want to be able to segment, to class out these employees into two classes, where we have one class for seasonal employees and then another class for permanent employees. Number of hours worked per week. Most insurance carriers and underwriters want members to work a minimum of 20 hours a week to be able to offer benefits to part-time employees. To part-time employees. One thing that I've come across is I've had advisors ask me, well, my client has full-time employees and part-time employees. Can the part-time employees pay half the monthly premium, the monthly premium cost? No. So all employees enrolled on the benefits plan will pay 100% of the premium, regardless of the hours they work per week. Marnie, I'm gonna pass it off to you for the next slide.
Yeah, thanks, Candy. So again, the last part before, and I'm cognizant of the time here, but the last part is advisor notes. This is where anything that you can give us as an advisor to get us to keep a few objectives in line. Number one, we want to make sure you're looking good. We want to make sure we're communicating to the carrier. We want to make sure we're matching the carrier properly for you. And so we want anything that you can give us that you think is relevant. Simply that maybe you come to us and say, listen, I really want to work on this group, but they're going to be high maintenance. This might be a conversation about how we can help facilitate that and structure it so that we can maybe step in and do some of the customer service work for you. Maybe there's things going on. It's a family-run business, and there's disputes within the family that maybe you want to let us know about, that we can help navigate. Other things like, English isn't the first language. So do you have a way of communicating, or what's the best way to communicate to some of these employees? What are their pain points? What are they happy about? What are they not? Anything that you can provide us is going to be really, really important. And as advisors, you should be also talking about the health and wealth and wellness aspects of the plan. Remember, it's one thing just to get your prescription drugs covered, or your dental, or your vision, but things like employee assistance programs, telemedicine, HR support, other things like health and wellness. The more we know what the client's objectives are, the more we know what type of employer this is, the better it is for you, the better it is for us to make sure that we're hitting all the points and putting in an effective benefit program. So advisor notes are equally as important as all of the other pieces that Candy was talking to before. That is the presentation. I know we've got a few minutes. I think there might be something in the chat. What I am going to do is just give everybody a moment. For anybody who was on last week, you know what this slide is. For anybody who's new this week, this is our contact QR code. This is an opportunity for you to reach out to your dedicated business development executive in your area to set up time, to reach out, to get more ideas about our business models, how we work, how we can be engaged with you, kind of the carriers that we work with, what we're seeing in the industry. We highly recommend that you reach out. Also that, again, I've said this in the past, but we're always promoting what we do on LinkedIn. It's a network of important information. So Candy's on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn, the rest of our team is on as well. I do highly suggest you connect with us. We're always posting information that's key in the benefit space. It's also an opportunity to get to know us more personally as well. So I highly recommend that you do that. And we're also always posting new things about what we're doing. And for instance, our annual symposium is being planned right now. It's on June 11th. It's going to be a great day virtually. So we're always showcasing what we're doing and how you can communicate with us. I do see that there's two questions. I'm just going to read them quickly. And Candy already answered it. So yes, we do have a discovery tool, an information gathering tool. We will be more than happy to engage with you on that. We are also going to be running a webinar in the upcoming future. Reason being is that we are now putting in more of a modular based discovery, and we're going to be showcasing that in a webinar so that you can see exactly what we're trying to achieve here from a holistic approach. And so with that, thank you everybody for attending. Next week's session, again, we're always going to recap from the sessions before, but next week, Candy and I are going to be reviewing the how to read a marketing report. So you've sent us all of the information for the request to quote. You've sent us all of the important information that we need. Now we've sent it out to the insurance carriers. They've looked at it. They're like, yay, we're going to now quote on this group. They're going to send back all the information. And now our team has populated it. And now it's ready to be shown to your client. What does that look like? And what are the key elements of actually reading a marketing proposal? As well as the implementation process. What does that look like? And so that's next week's session next Monday. So with that, thank you everybody for attending. Candy, an outstanding job. Good for you. And Candy and I will be back next week. If anybody has any questions, please do reach out. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us on. Some of you may have March break, and so we really appreciate it. And we look forward to next week's session.